Well, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the new HOBO MX multi-channel data loggers, and we are glad that you are with us. My name is Paul Gannett. I'm the HOBO product manager. I'm responsible for all of our standalone loggers, including the MX series of loggers. So first thing, I'm going to start out with a couple of poll questions. It's just a way for me to get to know a little bit more about you and where you're coming from. So the first poll is going to be, what is your application for data logging? And some of you may have multiple applications, so feel free to check multiple boxes on here. And if there's only, on your screen, you only see 5 choices. If you have another application, you can enter that into the questions box, and I'm sure many of you do have applications that don't fit into these categories. So feel free to enter that into the questions box. It's a good way to figure out where that is. Good, I can see the results coming in. So kind of the usual suspects. So, yep, okay, you guys are seeing the results now. And so as no surprise, the 2 big areas are HVAC and refrigeration and energy. Yeah, those are where these loggers fit in and can be used in a lot of different ways. Great tool for these applications. Museums and preservation, also up there. Not so much in shipping and storage and construction, but that's okay. In terms of other applications, yeah, we got some other interesting ones. Agriculture, well certification, light, and water conservation. All good applications, so thanks. So the next question I have for you is, what is your experience with data loggers? I know some of you have used loggers before, some maybe not. That's okay. We'll hopefully have information that's useful for all of you. All right, we'll give another few seconds to give people a chance to respond. All right, the results are in, and 3/4 of you have used HOBO data loggers. So that's impressive. So we'll definitely be sharing some new features of these data loggers. Hopefully we'll provide some good information for you. Some of this may be review if you're already familiar with loggers, but that's okay. And like I said, we'll have time for questions, so we can cover your advanced topics in the questions. To configure these loggers, you use the HOBOconnect app, and I'll be showing that today. And there's most of these loggers, they have LCD screens, so you can see the current readings and things like alarm notifications, logger status. So those screens are pretty handy. And they've got flexible mounting. We'll talk a little bit about the mounting options in a few slides. And we make them really rugged. They all have user replaceable batteries, so you can get many years of use out of these. Just replace the batteries as needed. All of them have batteries that will last for a year or longer, although CO2 logger might only last half a year because that sensor requires more power. We try to make them affordable. We've got prices starting at $49 for the temp only. That one does not have a display. The temp RH, which is especially popular, sells for $145. That's this one right here in front. We also sell a gateway, and this gateway is used to offload the data from these loggers automatically using that Bluetooth communications and forward that data to our HOBOlink website where you can access that data. This provides you centralized access to all of your data through the internet. You can access that data, basically almost real time because it's being constantly uploaded, like every 10 minutes or so, it's being uploaded to the HOBOlink site. It allows you to easily create custom dashboards on that site. It allows you to pull that data at any time from there. And it also allows you to set up alarm notifications where you can get a text message or an email if conditions have gone outside of what limits that you set. The gateway can be connected through Wi-Fi or Ethernet. It can be AC powered or powered over the Ethernet. The loggers do need to be within a 100-foot range, but you can have multiple gateways on a network to get coverage over your whole facility. The price for the gateway is $375 plus the service plan, which is $75 per year. And you don't need the gateway, but it's a nice option to know about. So that's kind of an overview of the product family. So now I'm going to talk specifically about the MX 4-channel data loggers. And these include 4 measurements and 1 logger, and a lot of flexibility in terms of the measurement options. The basic MX1100 logger includes temperature, RH, and light sensors built into the logger, and then it's got 1 analog input, which can accept a wide range of external sensors, either ones we provide or ones that you connect up, that are you obtain through a third party. And I'll talk about that analog input in more depth. They are locking inputs for the external sensors, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple slides. And the loggers have an Ip54 rating, and they have a capacity for almost 2 million measurements. Both loggers sell for $199. And I kind of skipped over the 4-channel external logger. This is similar to the 1104, but it has 4 external channels for analog inputs and no internal sensors. So it's all external sensors. The self-describing sensors, they plug into the bottom of the logger. And as you can see in the illustration on the left here, you put it in pointing to about the 9 o'clock position, and then you twist it to the 12 o'clock position, and that locks the sensor in place. So you don't have to worry about those sensors getting pulled out or falling out. It makes for a very robust connection. And the other nice feature of these sensors is they're self-describing to the logger, so that as soon as you plug it in and you connect it, it'll show up in our software, and it will tell you what the model number and a brief description of the sensor. So in this case, we've plugged in a stainless steel temperature sensor, and it shows up here in the software, HOBOconnect software. And here are some of the different sensor types available. These are the all external sensors that plug into those analog inputs. We have just a kind of basic temperature sensor, which has a stainless steel tip and then a 6-foot cable. That's great for air ducts, room temperatures, and more. You can run them all sorts of different places. We sell them at different lengths. We also have a surface temperature sensor here. It can be mounted to a pipe and use like a hose clamp and some thermal grease to help it monitor the pipe temperatures, or you can mount it to a surface and screw it in, again with a little thermal grease. That will give it a good surface temperature measurement. Then we have this food grade one, which is like a stabber probe sort of thing, and that's good for food applications, but it's also a very fast response temperature probe, which is handy in some applications. Then we also have some other plug-in sensors. Now these are what we call our self-describing sensors, or SD sensors. So these are all ones that the logger will recognize as soon as they're plugged in. We have the AC current CTs in multiple ranges from 20 amps up to 600 amps for the big ones. So some pretty serious power can be measured with these. These are great for monitoring AC current usage. We have a AC voltage sensor. And actually that was one of the questions. This is normally intended for like 120 volts or up to, I think, 300 volt line voltages. Somebody was asking if we had a sensor for 12 volts and 12 volts AC, and this sensor could be used for that. The accuracy, is okay. It's for that's kind of a low voltage compared to its full scale range of 150 volts. If that range is selected. But it still gets like plus or minus 0.25% accuracy, which is pretty, gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on. We also have a DC current sensor. That's this one down here. And we also have basically DC voltage input cables that just can be monitoring voltages up to 24 volts. And these analog inputs can also be wired to other sensors these are not self-describing sensors, but we supply some that can be easily connected up to the analog inputs for liquid and gas pressure. That's these different ranges, 100 PSI, 200 PSI. For example, we have a differential pressure sensor. That's this one here. I know somebody asked about that in advance. So somebody was looking for a wireless differential pressure sensor. This is not wireless, but you just plug it into you connect it to the logger, and you can put it wherever, because the logger is battery powered. And if you want to kind of convert it into a wireless configuration, you can add the gateway to get that data onto the internet. So that makes a nice system for monitoring differential pressure. We also have sensors for airflow and compressed air. And then if that's not enough of a choice, we have the ability to add in a wide range of other sensors. Sensors that have a 4 to 20 milliamp output can be connected. Ones with either 2.5, 5 volt or 10 volt outputs can be connected. Those cover most of the standard sensor outputs for any of the analog outputs. The software allows you to enter in linear scaling for those sensors to convert them to your user units, as long as it's a linear relationship, which most are. And we also have a couple options for sensor power. There's a switched 2.5 volt output, which only has a little bit of current, 4 milliamps, but that's suitable for some simple, like resistive type measurements. So that's a possibility. We also sell an AC to DC adapter that can provide DC power for sensors that need to be powered, but then those can be connected to the analog input. So a lot of flexibility to connect a wide range of sensor types. And here's, I'm just looking here at the questions coming in. One is, will older sensors we used for the UX modules work in the self-locking inlets? Will they also self-describe? The answer to that is yes and no. Those sensors that work with the UX loggers will work fine with these new MX series analog input loggers. They won't lock into place because they don't have that locking mechanism on them, but it's got the same 3.5 millimeter jack, so they'll connect in, or maybe it's 2.5 millimeter jack. It's the same jack as used on the UX loggers, so they'll plug in just fine. And they will not self-describe because they don't have the little ID circuitry in them to tell the logger what kind of sensor are. But they can be picked from the drop-down menu in the software, so it's easy enough to configure them. Here's another pressure or another sensor question, which is for gas pressure. Do we have any that are available for explosive atmospheres? And we don't sell any intrinsically safe gas sensors, so that's not an option from us, but there's many of those available, so you can find one and wire it in, as long as it meets those analog input requirements that I've just described over here. So looking at the logger in a little bit more detail, this is kind of an exploded view. First off, we've made it a very rugged housing. It's got an Ip54 rating. It's got a gasket here that keeps the moisture out. And what does Ip54 mean? The 5 means it's dust resistant. You can put it in a dusty environment and it's not going to, even if dust gets into the logger a little bit, it's not going to damage the logger in any way. And the 4 means that it's splash proof from all directions. So it's can be be sprayed, not with a high pressure jet, but it can be sprayed from any direction, and it'll survive that. We did get a question, is this rated for outdoor use? These loggers are not intended for extended outdoor use. They're not rated as weatherproof. They're splash proof. So just to be clear on that. In terms of looking at the front panel, it's got a couple of buttons on it. The start, stop button, you can start and stop the loggers from the front. It also has alarm features built into this logger, and you can see the status of the alarms, and you can clear the alarms with this button. Especially one of the options is to have the alarm make an audible beep, so you can stop that audible beep from the front panel here. That button is also used to scroll through the different statistics. We'll talk a little bit about statistics logging in a little bit. Of course, we talked about the LCD screen, which provides all the current status information. And just a quick tour of some of the sensors that are included in this logger. It's got the 1104 model, has an RH sensor built in. It's got a nice Gore-Tex type membrane over it, which allows the moisture in, but makes it splash proof. So that's how we do that. It's got that model has the light sensor built into it, which measures lumens. And the temperature sensor that is built into that model is down here in the bottom. It's a little nub, so it gets better temperature response time. And here's what the external inputs look like. So the 1104 model has just the one external input. The 1105 model has 4 of those external inputs across the bottom of the logger. So just see some of the mounting loops and the magnets which are built into the logger housing. You can just, if you got a metal surface such as a furnace, you can stick it on the side of the furnace and it'll stick right to it. It's pretty handy. So some of the key specs, we've got excellent accuracy. The temperature accuracy is 0.2 degrees Celsius across the measurement range. The RH accuracy is plus or minus 2.5% typical. There's some cases in like high humid environments where that can, not quite as accurate, but that's pretty normal for RH sensors. The analog input accuracy, if you're hooking up external sensors, excellent accuracy. The 4 to 20 milliamp input there's 2 components of the accuracy. One is a fixed component of 0.001 milliamps, plus or minus 0.2% of the reading, and similar sort of accuracy spec for the voltage. And it has several different logging modes built into the logger. We've got kind of your standard fixed logging interval where it logs every minute. That's how most people use them, to be honest. We also have a statistics mode where it can take several readings at a faster rate. So for example, you might want to take readings at a half a minute rate and then average them over a 5-minute interval. And that would give you, an average of 10 readings. And you can get the min for that time, the maximum, the average, and standard deviation. You can select which ones you want it to log. So you only get the ones that are most important, especially like average, for example. That can be handy if you're trying to average out a little bit of noise in your system or your sensor. That can be a handy way of getting slightly more accurate measurements. We also have a burst logging mode, and how that works is it continuously checking the readings, and you enter in if the reading goes above this amount, I want it to log at a faster rate, and then so you enter in that faster rate, and when you're configuring the logger, and if it goes above 80 degrees or whatever your threshold is, it starts logging faster. Then when it goes back below that level, it'll revert back to the slower logging mode. So it's just a way of basically saving some memory. Okay, there was a question here on how do we get dew point monitoring? I mentioned the different sensors, the temperature and the RH sensors, but this logger will also log dew point. And what it's doing is internal to the logger. It's calculating that from the temperature and the humidity data. And you'll see that in the demo when I show you that, how it's getting dew point. So that measurement is available to you. Mounting options, as I mentioned, it's got the really strong magnet, so it's easy to mount it on ducts and other metal surfaces. It's got the mounting tabs, which can be mounted with straps or screws. There's a lot of flexibility using those tabs. A lot of users will use command strips to mount these on walls. The nice thing about those is they won't damage the paint when you pull off the loggers. We don't actually include the command strips with these particular loggers, but they're readily available. So that's kind of the hardware side of things. So now I wanted to switch gears and talk about the software. And this is used to set up the loggers and offload the data, and I'll show that to you in a moment. It's a free app called HOBOconnect, and it provides the setup and the offload. It's available for iOS devices, your iPhones, your iPads, Android devices, and most recently it's supported on Windows. And I find it's actually, I go back and forth depending on what I'm doing as to which I use. So when I'm out deploying a logger, I typically like to use the app on my phone. But a lot of times when I'm looking at the data, I find it easier to look at it on a Windows computer. Just got a little more control over it. So you can easily, offload the data onto your laptop to take a closer look at what's going on. And just in the file structure in Windows is maybe a little bit easier for sharing the files with other users too. So there's different advantages to the different platforms. So it's nice to have that flexibility to kind of mix and match how you're looking at the data. And multiple users can offload the app. So if you want to have somebody else offload the data for you, just tell them to download the free app and they can offload the data for you. The software also provides data viewing, I'll show you that, and data sharing, I'll show you that. So, and interestingly, we are just updating HOBOconnect. It's probably going to be live next week, no promises, but I think it's going to be live next week. They're just doing the final checks on it now. And that's what I'm going to be using to show the demos today. So you're getting a sneak preview of HOBOconnect. And some of you who attended our webinar last week may have seen it as well. We also gave a little sneak preview last week. So with that, here's where I'm going to live a little bit dangerously. I'm going to actually show a demo, a live demo of the software on my phone. So this is, I have an iPhone. So I actually just saw a question about, I saw a question about Apple OS. We do not have a version of HOBOconnect for Apple OS. We have it for iOS for your mobile devices, but not for Apple laptops at this time. So good question. So back to the live demo. Hopefully everybody's seeing that. It looks like it's showing up in your view as well. And I've got a couple loggers here that are within range. And so this is the basic view. When I run HOBOconnect, it will show all the different loggers that are within kind of Bluetooth range of your device that you're using. So the one I'm going to be using is down in the family room. And so it's going to connect to it. So I just tapped on that bar that said family room to connect to it, and it brings up this screen. And one of the things I'll point out there is it is showing the current dew point to answer that question we had earlier. So it's just calculating that in the logger and sending it up for my app to pick up. And also some other key information. The logger is currently logging. You can see the battery status. You can see the serial number. And this is a name that I entered. You can see that as well. So what I'm going to do first, because this is how you typically would deploy it, you're going to configure and start the logger. So let's go take a look at that. So I've tapped on configure and start. The logger contains data that has not been read out. I'm going to reconfigure it anyways because I already have some good data. So I just fell for it. The old trick, I clicked on it on my computer. I got to tap it on my phone. So this is the connected screen. Now I'm connected to this logger, and this is where you basically do the configuration for this logger. I've called it family room. I could change that. I can associate it with a group, and that's useful for some of the sorting features if you want to group a bunch of loggers together and, by house or type of room or something like that for your studies. Here's your logger settings. And I'm actually going to change my logging rate. Right now, I have been logging it a minute. That's what it's logging at up till now. But I'm going to choose it is select different intervals. You can just tap the different standard selections, but I can also select a custom interval, and I'm going to change it to be a little faster so that it's, I'm going to have it logging every 15, oops, you don't need that. I was a little bit fat fingered. So I'm going to set it up for 15 seconds. So I'm going to turn off the minute, 0, done. So now I've set a custom interval, 15 seconds. And so I can close that up. So it's kept that 15 seconds I just set. It tells me how long it will log at that 15-second rate before the memory fills up. It'll go for 90 days. That'll be long enough for our little experiment right now. I've set it up for starting on the next logging interval, which would be the next 15-second even interval. I could set up when I wanted to stop logging. Lots of options. I'm not going to go through all of them. I am going to go down to the alarm setting. So I'm just going to come down to the temperature channel. And this is one that I've named room temperature and I could configure alarms on that. That's what I wanted to show you. So to look at the alarms, this is what the alarm screen looks like. You can set a high and a low alarm. You can specify how long you want that alarm condition to exist before you actually generate the alarm. And that's all you need to do to set up alarms. I'm actually not going to configure those right now, though. I just wanted to show you that. And then one other thing I want to show with the alarm settings is you can set up whether they're audible or silent alarms, where just the silent ones will just show on the LCD display. So I could enable this for audible alarms. So let's do that right now. It gives me a little warning message that's going to beep every 30 seconds. So okay, we're good with that. And at this point, I configured everything I want to do. You probably noticed that it's had this start button down here. I could have started at any time once I had the settings arranged the way I wanted them to. So I'm going to press it now because I'm good. So it's configuring the logger. So it's downloading that configuration to the logger. And we've had success. So it's started logging. And you can see now, this is kind of that main screen again. You can see that it says it's logging, so that's good. And what else? If I wanted to, I could see some live data. So this is just kind of a, let's see, it kind of starts from when you click that button, so it doesn't have a lot of data, but every 15 seconds, it should be updating this. So you can see some points, it's not moving a lot, it's no surprise, but so that's the live data screen. So it's just bring you back to this one. We'll give it a chance to catch a couple data points. So typically what you do, is this is when you deploy it somewhere. And what I'm going to do is show you where I had this one deployed. So in this case, I was monitoring the temperature in the room, plus I was monitoring the temperature in an air duct coming into the family room. So that's the temperature sensor I use to do that. So just to give you a sense, now I come back to the HOBOconnect app. Now I should have some data to download. So I clicked on that box that said download data. The download's complete. And now I can export and share. So it's successfully created an Excel file in my default location on my phone. And I can share that in multiple different ways. I can also set up a default, whether I wanted it as a CSV or an Excel file. I set it up as a default for Excel files. So that's why I created it in that format. So let's say if I want to share that, I press the share button, and then just any sort of sharing app that you have in a texting or communicating app that you have on your phone can be used to send those files. So I could send an email, for example, to send that. I'm not going to send it right now. Well, I guess I can. Well, no, you don't need to see that. You take my word for it. So yeah, so now I've shared that data. If I want to look at that data, what I do is I actually hit the arrow in the upper left there, and it'll bring me back to my searching screen. And down at the bottom, you'll see an icon for data. So I'm going to, I click on that. You see it's in blue now. So the file at the very top is the one I just offloaded, but that one's not going to be very interesting because I just took a few data points. So I'm going to see what this one down below, what the second one down looks like. I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting. Let's see. Maybe not. Let me go 2 files down. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we got some data. So I'm going to do it in horizontal mode so you can see it. And then you can zoom in, which is kind of cool. And you've got a lot going on here. So what I'm going to do is these dots, 3 dots in the upper right. I'm going to open that, and I'm going to turn off a couple of the channels so that I'm just seeing the 2 temperature channels. I think it just a little bit easier to look at, a couple of data channels at once. You also see I could have plotted out the dew point as part of this graph. So here's my graph. So just to kind of describe what you're looking at here, the top level is the room temperature in green, and then the lower graph is the duct temperature in blue. And I can zoom in a little bit, and it's interesting. During the day, we had some heat recently here. During the day, the duct temperature was running around 40 degrees. I was surprised at how cool that was. Now, for some of you guys that do this all the time, maybe that's no surprise, but I was surprised to see how cool the air is coming out of the duct from our AC unit. And so during the day, it's pretty much on all the time. But then as it gets towards the evening, you can see it's cycling on and off. That's in here, and you can read out the values at any time. As you notice, if I hold my finger on the graph, so you can see what the temperature were at those times. And then overnight, you can see that the temperature in the duct's almost approaching the room temperature. So, which is no surprise because the air conditioning is not running during that time. And then you can see in the morning when it's cycling on and off again, goes into the next day. So you can actually see a fair amount of information just with this data file viewer. But of course, you can share it to Excel, any of your favorite analysis programs, and just a lot of flexibility there. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. And so it's, just looking back at the questions briefly. Is this all the new HOBOconnect software? Yeah, what I was just showing you was all the new version of HOBOconnect that's going to be released next week. So that's what you have to look forward to. You can, you should, depending upon the settings on your HOBOconnect. If you've got HOBOconnect already, you should get that upload automatically, or you can download it on demand. Let's see. I'm just looking through the questions right now. There's a question. Is there a web page for downloading the data and capturing and configuring the loggers? All of the configuration of the logger is done through this app, which I just showed you through HOBOconnect. The data, however, I'll show you this just real quick. Oops. What I got to do is, sorry. What I did is just in case my demo didn't work, I had a backup plan, which was I had the files to show you kind of a virtual demo. What I'm going to show you now is the settings, because I think this is important. So these are various settings on the logger. And one of the settings is, right at the top, I almost went right by it, is you can link a HOBOlink account to your device so that the data automatically gets uploaded to that HOBOlink account. So with that account, then you have access to filters which allow you to pull data over a date range, select which sensors you want. All of basically is a whole database that you can access the data any way you want. You can also set up dashboards in HOBOlink, so you can see the data any way you want. So HOBOlink is a nice complement for web-based access to your data. And I should explain this. I mentioned the gateway before, but one of the options here is if I connected in a HOBOlink account here, every time I offload the data to my phone, it would send the updated data to my HOBOlink account. So it's basically creating a copy of the data on my phone, but also a copy of the data in HOBOlink. So you've got kind of some data archival and redundancy there. So it's a pretty powerful system when you put it all together. Let's see. I'm going to just take a couple more questions and I'm going to go through some more slides. There's the next question that I see here. I'm going to answer in the next slide. So I'm going to just kind of go through my slides. So I'm just going to quick. So you've all seen this. This was in case. The question was, what about those of you who are still using Hobo Mobile? That was our original mobile app. With this new version of Hobo Connect, we are ramping down our support for Hobo Mobile. We're not stopping. You're not going to suddenly not be able to use Hobo Mobile. You can still use it, but you're not going to be able to download it for a new installation on new devices because we're not going to be updating that. New loggers that come out won't be supported in Hobo Mobile. We want to encourage everybody to switch over to Hobo Connect because it does everything that Hobo Mobile does, and it does more. There's a little different interface in some cases, but it really does most everything that Hobo Mobile does. So there's no reason not to switch. So we're encouraging everybody to do that. As part of that, we do recommend that you export your Hobo Mobile data files either to HOBOlink, which we just talked about how you can archive your data there in HOBOlink, or you can export them, as Excel, whatever format you want to keep your data files in. So we encourage you to do that, so that eventually, when you uninstall Hobo Mobile, you don't have any, you don't lose any of your data. Oh yeah, there's a good question here. Once you have shared the files, is there a way to delete the files? Yes, you can delete the files. And there might even be a way to do a bulk delete of the files. I'm not sure on that. So, but yeah, there's no need to keep the old files around once you've sufficiently backed them up in other locations. Yeah. So briefly, I want to talk about this kit, which includes the MX1100 logger plus an external temperature sensor. It's just a great way of getting 4 measurements in one logger with one part number. And it's a great tool to have in your toolbox. Sorry about the bad pun, but we just wanted to kind of get that idea home. So that's something to consider. I'll talk a little bit about applications. So you guys probably know what applications you have in mind, but just in case you haven't thought of some of these applications, I'll review them real quickly. Certainly building performance is a key area, whether you're somebody that's installing equipment or you're somebody that's managing a building. These data loggers with being able to monitor temperature, RH, and light, as well as energy usage and things like the differential air pressure. They're a great way of monitoring the different parameters around your HVAC systems to make sure that everything is performing as you'd expect. They're also great for education and research, energy consultants. Many of you, I think, are in energy consulting. That's a great way to, great tools that you can have to help troubleshoot and improve the performance of your clients' systems. Just kind of a, I'm not gonna go through all the detail on this, but, and probably for most of you, this is review. Your HVAC systems are pretty complex. You have air coming in from the outside. You have air mixing going on within the system. You have return air, supply air, all these different sources of air. And you want to make sure they're all optimized, and having a 4-channel logger with 4 temperature sensors is a great way to make sure things are happening in the proper sequence. So here's kind of an example of that. So taking our MX1100 logger with 4 temperature sensors, looking at the return air, the discharge air, and at a couple points within the mixing area in your ductwork. Great way to do that, get all that data together. And of course, if you want to monitor more parameters in your systems, you can deploy more loggers, and then all that data gets combined in HOBOlink. That's the advantage of having that central repository for all your data. And also, if you want to factor in outside air temperature and humidity, which is often quite important to monitor as well, we sell the MX2300 series loggers, which will measure temperature and humidity. And they are weatherproof. They're rated to be fully weatherproof. So they're a great solution for that. And they use the same Hobo Connect software and HOBOlink. So it's all part of that same ecosystem. Here's just another configuration where you're looking at some of the temperatures in the air ducts, but also looking at the current being used by the heat pump using a current CT that plugs into the same logger. And you can change sensors for different applications, which is part of the nice flexibility of these. So you can have a suite of sensors and you plug in the appropriate ones for your application. Just some other ideas, verifying your thermostats, making sure that you're not heating and cooling at the same time if you've got systems with multiple zones. Just a lot of different applications, and it's surprising what you learn just by looking at the temperatures in the system. Like I learned that the air conditioning air is coming out at 40 degrees C. That was something new for me. And then other applications beyond HVAC and building performance, museums, of course, protecting valuable artifacts and art, construction, during construction, kind of tied to that hardwood flooring installation. Quite common to need to monitor the humidity during the installation process to make sure that the proper humidity's been being maintained so that the hardwood flooring is protected. Indoor growing facilities, warehouses, a lot of different applications where you can use these. They're so general purpose. Oh, that's my trigger to say that I've gotten through the slides. I actually took a few more questions during the presentation than I planned, so it took me a little longer to get through it. But we still do have 10 minutes for taking additional questions for things that I may not have covered. Let's see. I'm looking through the questions now for ones that I might have missed. And I'm going to do, okay, yeah, here's a good question. Thank you, Carrie. Can I log pressure in amps on the MX1100 at the same time? Certainly can. You just plug one of those pressure sensors that I was talking about, either differential pressure or line pressure, and one of the CTs into the 1105, and it will monitor both of those. I got a question here on the, oops, questions are coming in fast and furious. I'm having trouble keeping up with you. And I should say that don't worry if I don't get your questions. We will follow up with you on any questions that I don't get to today. Let's see. Is there a way to select multiple files in HOBOconnect to share all of them at once? That's actually, that's a good question. There's a way to do a bulk offload of data loggers, where you can select up to 20 data loggers at once and offload the data from all of those. We don't have the ability right now to share data from multiple loggers at once, but that's something that's kind of high on our list. So I expect that to happen at some point, but it's not part of the software right now. Where's the best place to purchase equipment? I guess that's kind of specific. We sell all of these loggers directly. You just go to our website. You can purchase them online. You can contact our sales folks with any questions. We're happy to take your orders directly, either over the phone or online. We also sell through some distributors, such as Grainger, just to name one you're probably familiar with. You can buy through them as well. Really, it's up to you how you would prefer to buy. And for those of you who are international, we do have distributors in many countries around the world, and we encourage you to buy through your country's distributor because they can support you locally. They can in the same time zone and language, and they sell basically the same price as we do, plus any handling costs. They'll just kind of build that into their pricing. Let's see. There's a question on a data plan for HOBOlink. The HOBOlink data plan for $75 a year, that includes access to your data files. I think that HOBOlink data plan, I should clarify, that was if you're using a gateway. So if you're using a gateway, I think it's one HOBOlink data plan per gateway. If you are taking advantage of the automatic upload feature from Hobo Connect, where you can enable the feature that as soon as the files are offloaded, they get uploaded to HOBOlink, that at this time is still a free service plan. So that's a great deal. I can't promise that it will stay that way, but right now, that ability to have your data files from all your different loggers uploaded to HOBOlink and accessed there, that's a free data plan for that. And here's a question: can one chart reading from multiple loggers on the same chart? That's a good question. We have a dashboard feature that's in HOBOconnect, and you can have multiple loggers feeding into that dashboard, and that's just kind of showing real-time readings on your dashboard. That's and so it's just ones within range. Within HOBOlink, you can also set up a dashboard that has loggers, multiple loggers coming into the same display. Now, it won't show the loggers until their data has been uploaded, but if it's being uploaded on a regular basis, you'll be able to look at all those loggers together very easily on one graph or one display, however whatever widgets you choose to use to display your data. What else? Here's a question: would the 1105 be used for 3-phase current monitoring? It can be used to monitor the current in each of those phases, but if you really want to see kilowatt hours, which is probably what you're getting at, we have other loggers that do that. We sell the watt node kilowatt hour sensors, and those have a pulse output, and we recommend those be used with our pulse input logger. So if you're looking for kilowatt hours, I would recommend looking at that type of solution. We also have web-enabled outputs for kilowatt hours if you want to be able to monitor power usage remotely via our RX station. So some good options there to check out. Okay. Well, this is one of the questions I'm going to touch on that was sent in advance. Is somebody was asking if they could freeze their dashboard to retain a specific data view, and I wanted to suggest a couple options to address that need. I can see you just want to look at a certain data set. You want to be able to share that with somebody, and our dashboards in HOBOconnect and and HOBOlink are designed to be more real-time dashboards. If you want to look at just a specific slice of time, there's a couple different ways to do that. One is you can configure HOBOconnect to just record the data for that specific slice of time. You can specify a start time and a stop time, so you can record exactly a week's worth of data. You'll upload that data file, and you'll have exactly that view of the data, which you can easily share with others. Another option to look at a very specific time frame is to have all that data uploaded to HOBOlink using a couple of options that I've talked about. Then from HOBOlink, you can select whatever time range you want. You can select exactly a month, a week, whatever time range of interest. So that's what I recommend if you're looking for that kind of looking at the data in a time slice. I also had a question in advance about do we sell a water leakage sensor? I wanted to say is we don't sell a water leakage sensor, but those are commonly available. You want to look for a water leakage sensor that is designed for use with a alarm system that has basically a contact closure sort of sensor, and you can use that in combination with our analog input. And I mentioned that we have a 2.5 volt output. You can detect whether that contact sensor is closed or open, and you can generate alarms based on that if you want to have an alarm system. So that's got a couple product inputs here. So thank you for those who are listening. That's one of the reasons I enjoy doing these webinars. I enjoy getting your input. So thank you for passing those inputs on. So we're coming up on the top of the hour. So I just wanted to share one more slide with you, and then I'll let you guys go. And that is this is just one webinar. I've scratched the surface. I'm sure you still have a lot more questions. Our website, onsitecomp.com, is a really valuable website. It's got all the product information, all our pricing's up there. It's got a lot of application information, some common applications, so you can learn from what other users have done. We've got webinar recordings, as well as notifications of upcoming webinars, technical papers, tutorials, just a wealth of information you can find there. So I encourage you to go there as a place where you get additional information. And also I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. You can sign up for that on the homepage, just so you're kept up to date as we come up with new products. We'll let you know about them. And software updates, like we're just updating Hobo Connect. We'll get a notification out to all our users that that's being updated. And just I want to, in closing, say thanks for attending. It's really been a pleasure to have a chance to talk about our products with you. Hopefully I've answered most of your questions. So thanks again. Have a great day.